Welcome to Java, and thank you kindly for joining me. It's November 3rd, 2025. This is the first trading day of the month. There is quite a bit going on, but before I get into that, I would like to give a special shout out to Gregory Mannarino for putting together a very wonderful Lions meet. He hosted an incredible get together. It's going to happen again next year. I was incredibly humbled by the number of people there that just have like minds. Was very refreshing and very nice to see so many people from so many different backgrounds that are so tuned in, and it was my privilege to meet a few lions actually in person. I'd like to put out a special shout out to Hippistia. Thank you so much for the gifts. It was wonderful. I appreciate meeting you and your sweet mother, as well as Chris and the Mitches. All of you, it was amazing. So thank you all very kindly for that. I appreciate that. And then also I got to meet Fly Home with a Lion. Actually happened to be on my same flight for returning. So that was quite the surprise. Did get back very late in the evening, so apologies if I sound a little bit off. Aside from that, this is my second time doing this. The first time I think I said too much in my last frame. You'll catch that, and I have to redo this video. So with this, let's get started. The SOFR warnings want to mention this quickly. There was a massive spike on Friday, showing that there was a lot of liquidity that was needed for the overnight. Now, it's okay for that to go up at times. It is a warning, it is a red flag. However, it is meant for short term spikes. That is what that is in place for. So, as long as it doesn't stay there, as long as that burrows on the short time and then it gets replenished. But it is definitely showing some warning flags from someone who's needing that much liquidity for such a short period of time. So, with this, we've also got the United States government still shut, so not getting a lot of reports. So, let's get started with what else is going on in the markets. We've got a fear greed meter. It's finally reached up to the neutral. So, we are back in and up and to the right, at least for today. I believe this very short term. We're going to be in a very volatile market this week. It's going to be very interesting. We've got quite a few things coming out. So, neutral on the fear greed, retail purchasing in, big money selling into the retail buying in, and we're watching a massive shift. But there's not many alternatives to where to put your money. So, this includes globally, we've got a lot of foreigners in the United States stock market because it is the largest and most liquid, meaning you can sell it much more rapidly than other markets. You're much more likely to get a buyer. So that is part of what is pushing this up. So we're always watching the 10-year yield and relative strength of the dollar against the other currencies. So at this moment, looks like we're green across the board, which in itself is a bit of an anomaly. The volatility index going up, as well as the fear trades of gold. Gold above 4,000 again. So we're looking at crude oil, I'll talk about in a moment. But cryptocurrencies are a little bit of a surprise. They're also, in general, a bit of a leading indicator for the stock market, the NASDAQ in particular. Not always correlated, but very loosely, I would say, correlated with these. So we've got Bitcoin above 107,000. It's got a couple of good support levels, 105, 102, and then 98. If it gets down to 98, I'm personally going to be buying. You do whatever you like. It's not financial advice for individuals. However, there's some big events going on, but those are good levels to take a look at. So at any rate, we've got the daily driver today's earnings for a lot of larger companies still, even though the Mag 7 pretty much is done. We've got ADP, this private payroll company. So even though it's considered less reliable than the government data, and I don't know how they come to that conclusion, but it's better than flying completely in the dark. So it's going to be weighted a little more heavily this time. We've got Besant at the same time admitting that the United States has sectors in recession, but that they're in good shape. So I have a little bit of a different take on that. I don't believe the United States is in good shape because I believe that a lot of this is driven by what we call the K-shaped economy. Rich get richer, and the poor are increasing in number as they are enveloping more of the middle class. People cannot even afford $500 of savings for emergency. So when you average those out, sure, they look like they're in good shape, but it's such a misallocation that it's going to show up sooner or later. I believe sooner. So we've got the emerging markets; those are up on chips manufacturing. So for all of the artificial intelligence, they are still benefiting nicely. So oil, back to oil. OPEC Plus paused their hikes. They say they're expecting slow demand. So that is a problem. I believe the slow demand is coming out a little bit further. We're looking at towards winter, the end of winter, because there's going to be some demand there. Turkey, in the meantime, lowered their purchases from Russia, so that's lower demand, as the United States is tightening their sanctions. Now, at the same time, we had Germany come out and say that they've got record in wind. This is not a joke. They went to wind power. So the issue is with this is that's not the whole picture. They've got record wind power that they've produced now, but it's still not penciling out with a full picture of math going into that, because when they chose to go to this clean energy, it's not as efficient as the other. So they've fallen a bit behind in bolstering this, I believe, with a bit of propaganda. So one of the companies we've got to earn, I believe it's not a good company necessarily in the term of it, but Palantir is going to report. I'll talk about a few others. So back to oil, and this is related. A Russian tycoon warning of a surge in global gas prices, and a lot of this is because they are expecting a little bit more of a harsh winter. So calendar. As I said, the ADP, we are getting that Wednesday. Other than that, all of these reports that have a star next to them are not going to come out because of this is last week's. That's not going to help us. That's about the quality of the uh, data we're getting out now. We're behind. Anyway, the ADP is coming out Wednesday and not much else, so forgive me for that. We've got a few market bits in info. Iron is the latest artificial intelligence deal with Microsoft. $9.7 billion flowing that way. So, of course, they're up in the morning. We've still got this cyclical spending going on through the artificial intelligence companies. Now, we've got United States. I find it interesting. They call this a wobble. They're at risk of a wobble as lower income consumers get squeezed. It's a recession. So they can't even call it what it is because it doesn't fit their psychological traps they've got set. So earnings, we've got quite a few other companies coming along as well. And then Malaysia's central bank setting 3-year roadmap. That's not very long. This is Malaysia. There are the Euro, other countries, Eurozone, as well as the United States already in tokenization. Everything will lead to asset tokenization. And then on the currency side will be stablecoins, or that some countries are calling them by what they are, CBDCs. But many are calling them stablecoins because they're getting pushback on CBDC. So we've got fintechs and neobanks driving the next era of stablecoin adoption. I actually would say that it's more governments driving this. If you look behind the strings, you can say that they're going to be the ones that implement and carry, but the governments are the ones that are behind the adoption. So a little bit more about why this took me down, I believe last time. The CTO of Palantir is warning the United States might no longer frighten its adversaries, and saying he is arguing that the United States no longer scares its enemies in a new interview, saying we've lost deterrence as a nation and implying that United States has completely lost their strength because they're not afraid. So how would you make them afraid? And being what this software does, which is the driver of drones, a lot of military, and taking care of problems, if you will. So they want to see a lot more of this kind of exercised. In short, this seemed to me kind of a advertisement, if you will, for this company to go forward. So with this, I want to mention the Discord. Every time I try to put this link in the description, it gets removed by the powers that be. So posting it here, my apologies, I know it's a pain to copy, but if you would like to join us there for the chat or the chat is in the main, conference is the discussions. Just copy this in to discord.com. You do have to create a profile. You do not have to download the app. Okay? Just join us here. If you have any troubles, feel free to reach out to me directly at my email if you'd like. I am so thankful once again for those of you that I did get the opportunity to meet and speak with. It was truly a pleasure. So with all of this, I wish you all a wonderful day, and until I see you again, resist.